Zohar, also known as Zoe, Tirosh-Polk, is an accomplished playwright, screenwriter, creative consultant, and coach. She has worked extensively on multiple platforms from Broadway to Netflix, Apple TV, Paramount, plus HBO and CBS. Her plays have been presented at many theaters, including Lincoln Theater, Lincoln Center Theater, The New Group, Magic Theater, and others. She holds a BA from Columbia in Literature and Writing and an MFA in Playwriting from Brooklyn College under Mac Wellman. As a creative coach, Zohar has coached hundreds of artists, guiding them towards creative fulfillment and success on their terms. She is trained by the Creative Coaching Association and has studied with renowned creative and business coaches around the world. Zohar lives in New York with her busy actor, producer, husband, and 2 children. Welcome, sweetheart. So lovely to have you in your beautiful, beautiful work. Welcome. So thank you for coming and talking with us.
Of course.
So would you mind casting back and just sharing with us a little bit about where you were at before we started working together, before you joined us?
Sure. The funny thing is I own a coaching company called Thrive Creative, where I work with artists and help them move their creative goals and dreams forward. And I called Lara because I wanted her to come talk to my clients. So that's how it started. It's like, oh, this would be good for my clients. And I invited you and you did this amazing, you did your magic. And then I thought, well, this is magic. And then I've done the W.E.A.L.T.H retreat. I invited you again. And I think I did the W.E.A.L.T.H retreat again. So it took a couple of retreats to realize, oh, this is not just for my clients. I'm here for myself. And I think where I was, and it was so interesting listening to you speak earlier, just there were all these decisions I have made unconsciously that I wasn't fully aware of, but I did know that there was a place where, you just read this, kind of elaborate bio, right? I did a lot of things, but there was still a decision in there where like abundance was not for me. Like that was not in the cards. There would be all these great things, but money is still somehow out of reach. And that's where I was when I decided to join the Living Abundance Leaders.
Yes, thanks for reminding me that. It's actually quite good to remember all these little touch points we had.
Right. How did we get there? Yeah.
This is interesting. So yeah, that's it. And like so much success, right? Like that's a very impressive bio. And like there's so much that's working. And then there's these little places where we're like, something's not quite landing, right. but not aware of why specifically.
Yeah. And then there's so many layers to that, right? Like there's ancestral, like I'm Jewish, I come with all of that stuff. Like I'm an artist. So that ingrained belief, like in a very dark crevice of our psyche, where like artists are not abundant, and that even I, as a creative coach who works with other artists and believes in their capacity, still had to work through these deep what's the word I'm looking for, knots, right? These like knots that we have in the crevices of our own psyches that block us, that blocked me, and I think that's the deep work that we've been doing. I specifically thought of one word that came to mind when I've been thinking about our work together, which was for me, if I had to sum up my time at Living Abundance Leaders and my work with you and my sort of knowing you, is about embodiment. It's really about embodiment. And there's so many layers to that word as well, but it is about the body, and it is about embodying what we want. And it is about finding the way to become the thing that I want. And it is also for me, so it's those steps that we took, and it is, you said this earlier, but it does take practice. It doesn't happen overnight. It's like going to the gym, right? Like going into, and there'll be sessions where I'll be like, oh, there is that belief, like there is that fear, there is that thought. Well, the world is really, I'm from Israel originally, and things are going really awry at this point. It's really horrible. So like, why would I be doing well? Who said I'm allowed to live in abundance when the world is suffering, right? And that has been a conscious, a subconscious and a conscious thought that I have to continue to work at. But the other thing I wanted to say about embodiment with you is that I learned just by being in your presence, by your ability to embody, by how you hold space for others, how you hold your business, so it's just so much about it for me has been and continues to be about embodiment and about my body being in a space of abundance with other people who is working towards abundance. That's been really huge as well.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
And I know about you too, because you are a big giver, right? And you shared so many stories of like getting extraordinary results from your clients.
Right.
But it was like, again, like you can make magic for your clients, you can acknowledge, their successes, but there was like this piece around receiving. Do you want to share a little bit?
Yes, I think, receiving in general for me, as I'm just going to talk about myself because it's easy to talk about other people, but like for me as a woman, right? For me as an artist, for me as a mom, for me, the list is long. Like to be able to I give, right? You keep saying that to me, Lara, right? I'm too generous, right? Like I give, right? I'm a giver. I'm a double cancer. Like I'm a mom, like I give. And so the whole process of rewiring to receive, and again, bringing it back to the body, like rewiring to receive in the body, in my psyche, in my soul, the ability to continue to sort of allow abundance to flow to me. And you said earlier, from places expected and unexpected, and that has totally been my experience. It has come through my husband, who's a busy actor, but like there's amazing opportunities that have come through there. It has come through my business. It has come through opportunities. It has come through clients who've done incredibly well, who were willing to share their abundance with me. There's been many, many opportunities that have opened by doing this kind of daily process of rewiring to receive, and by bringing it back to the body and embodiment.
Amazing. Well, thank you for explaining that so well. So yeah, you just shared some of your wins, but I think it's really, and again, I love how generous you are, by the way. I think being big givers, I'm a big giver too, but my big thing, as you know, I'm such a stickler for, it's like, you're going to keep giving. You've got to make sure you're receiving. Otherwise, like, you got to fill your cup, right? You got to want to give from the overflow, ideally, where you're not excluding yourself. And I remember, well, actually, I don't know if you feel like sharing this story about like being young and being a woman and like around the conversations around money. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I come from sort of a wealthy background, but it was sort of not for me to be part of, in a way. It was for me to maybe enjoy, but not for me to take real part in a way. And my beloved father, who's passed away, beloved, and I have been and still in many ways very, very close to him, but he would come, and then he would, when there was some financial conversation to be had, he would look at my husband and not at me. So like, or my brother, right? Like that women have no place in this conversation. And it was not from ill, he did not mean anything bad by it. It's just how he was brought up. It's like, money is a man's world, right? And that took a long time for me to undo. So much so that last year I ended up negotiating and selling an apartment of mine. And it was a really new experience where I did it in a way that I wanted to do it. And I didn't have to give my power away to any other male figure around me, and there are quite a few, to make the decision or to decide how I wanted it to be. And it ended up being like, and it was very important for me that deal would be abundant for all involved. And that's exactly how it was. That's exactly how it ended up being. But it was the first time in which I took the reins in a financial situation, in a big financial situation, and not sort of gave my power away.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that story, because obviously it's a subtle thing, right? Just not being looked at in the eyes, but there's all these little ways that all this programming goes in, and a lot of it's subconscious. It's not actively trying to be unkind, but how we internalize that, and then how that impacts all of these moments, right? Which is, and we can't necessarily see them because they're kind of blind spots until we start to really work with it. You're like, hey,
Totally.
just read it, right? And then
Completely.
obviously, yeah. So is there anything else, like anything else around, you've shared some, obviously some beautiful kind of successes that have been happening, but is there anything else that you'd like to share that you've seen that's kind of a tangible result? It can be an inner result, outer result from doing this work thus far. Is there anything else you want to share?
Well, I shared sort of, I think this mantra was actually given to me by a friend, but Lara also repeats it, which is wealth is, we think, I also thought there was a belief I had that I had to earn it, like it had to be hard and I had to earn it. And that letting go of all of these beliefs started opening me up to the idea of abundance and wealth as a lot of things and can come from a lot of places. And yes, it has come from my business. Yes, it comes from working with clients. Yes, it comes from my writing. Yes, it comes, but it has become a much more multi-dimensional experience. And also, I think the biggest win of all, if we want to call it that, is where I started, where I thought abundance is not for me. It's out of my reach. Money is out of my reach. Abundance is out of my reach. That is so not my experience today. And that idea of embodiment is something I feel more and more in my daily life, where I am the person I want to be and I'm doing the things I know I'm supposed to do. And then the money flows, then abundance flows. I can keep talking, so I'll just stop.
That's amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this is it. And again, we don't really even know that that's the belief that's running sometimes, that it's
right
for someone else, or, you know, wanting to be a good, kind person, you know, whatever we think, like, you know, we can't be kind and generous and wealthy, or whatever these little sort of subtle.
Big time. And what you said earlier also was huge for me, sort of the idea of we've learned about power by the misuse of power, right? We learned about wealth by the misuse of wealth. And so I think, again, I can speak for myself, but as a woman, it's like, well, we don't do that, right? And so let me stay away from power and wealth because that's dangerous and scary and bad for other people. And I don't do that. Yeah. And so actually the work of reclaiming that is incredibly healing, just not to ourselves, but to society and the world.
100%. And leaning in leadership in difficult things, like, you know, obviously we could talk forever, but like things that you're wanting to do in your work or things that you're wanting to talk about, or right, leaning in, it means that we start leaning in in a leadership position in difficult conversations, or historically maybe you've been left out of that conversation, right, as a woman or as, you know, a Jewish person or whatever based on our ancestry. Like actually, I think when you're reclaiming yourself and that you're actually healing the past, right, you're kind of liberating the past somehow that lives still inside the nervous system. But also then, what are we building moving forward from that place as well, right? When we think about future innovation.
Yeah, and that you're just also, your intuition is so amazing and incredible and surprising because, you know, I come from this world. This is the work I do. I love the work I do. You know, like how much can you teach me still, right? And I came into the Living Leaders Mastermind and I said, Living Abundance Leaders. And I said, well, there's my business, but there's this book I want to write. And Lara was like, I don't care about your business. You need to write the book. And I'm like, wait, I'm here for abundance. You're like, you need to write this book. And just your way of like already, there's like a zooming in, like an X-raying into the underbelly, into what lives there and wants to live and is really the path to true wealth. Like you can really zoom in these ways.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you're still doing your business, right?
I'm totally doing my business, but I'm also writing my book. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the thing. Yeah. So it's like leaning into the thing we're kind of resisting and avoiding. So like going into the shadow, going into the belly of the beast, I like to call it, where it's like that thing that's like, that feels hard, that feels scary, that feels danger. I know how to do this thing that I do. I'll keep doing that when it's just fine, but it's like, right? So you're still, you know, doing all your beautiful coaching work as well as sort of like not bailing on this very powerful piece.
Not bailing because we are learning continuously to create safety, right? So we find safety in the body. We find safety in we deal with the fears. We deal with them face on, like we're actually heads on. I mean, if we see them, we deal with them, and then you can move past the fear and past the feeling of not safe. Because really, why don't we do the things we want to do is because we don't feel safe. And so the work has been to continuously relax the nervous system and continuously feel safe in this process, so I could move towards the things that I really know I want to do.
Yeah, and thank goodness. And you have some beautiful things. Then this is it. And it's like day in, day out, right? It's not like I have to face this every day too. It's not like you're arriving to some magical destination where it's like, and now I've arrived and everything's wonderful always now.
I think there are more and more moments. There are moments, right? Like you, from a place of like feeling famished and like things are completely out of your reach. And there are more moments of embodied living, embodied leading. And there's sucky mornings when the dog's annoying and the news are horrible and you get a call from school, your kid's school that you don't want to get. You know what I mean? Like all of that. Life is life, but there is more of, again, embodiment.
Yeah, beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. It's so powerful. It's really beautiful. I find it so moving to hear, even though I know this, it's just hearing it lands on another level. Is there anything else on your heart that you'd like to share with us today, darling?
Just that it's, the things that you want that are out of your reach are possible and they're worth taking the chance. I'm actually like right now negotiating with myself about some other big investment, and I'm terrified. I'm shaking in my boots, and I totally get that. I totally understand. But what Lara says about you go first, like we go first and we lead the way, and then doors open. So just want to share that.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much for coming and sharing. So beautiful. We can talk about your investment tomorrow on the call. Look into that together. All right. Big love. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us. And if anyone wants to get in touch with Zoe, come and find her in the Facebook group.
Take care.